So the first thing we'll do is I'll have our kind of panelists introduce themselves, and I can start. My name is Courtney Pelfrey, and I am the Assistant Director of Downtown Career Services, typically located in Union West on the second floor, currently located from the internet. We'll have Jason go ahead.
Great, thank you, Courtney. My name is Jason Dodge. I'm the Director of Student Success on the downtown campus. I'm located just 2 offices down from Courtney on the second floor of Union West.
Awesome. Theta?
Good morning. My name is Theta Llewellyn, and I am the Assistant Director of Student Accessibility Services, where I'm also on the second floor of Union West, but my office is located within Testing and Accessibility Services.
Awesome. Chinyen?
Hi, I'm Chinyen Zhuo. I'm a faculty member with the Experiential Learning at UCF. My liaison colleges are College of Sciences, College of Undergraduate Studies, and College of Communication, Innovation, and Education. I work with internship instructors and academic advisors closely to help students find internships and earn academic credit for their internship experiences.
Awesome. And Tiana?
Yes, so alongside of Chinyen, I work in the Office of Experiential Learning, and I'm a faculty member in the office. So my liaison areas is Nicholson School of Communication, Rosen College of Hospitality, and the College of Arts and Humanities. But I'm also liaised to the MAS, which is Multicultural Academic Support Services, and the Burnett Honors College.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. And so we've got a series of questions to ask. And so we'll kind of pop around. Some are area specific, so I may direct them towards individuals, but a couple of them, if anyone wants to answer the question, feel free to jump in and kind of give us your response. So we will go ahead and get started. We'll get started with something that anyone could answer, but let's talk for just a minute about what is something you feel like overall that you can do to kind of get the most out of this semester. We know it's primarily virtual, it looks a lot different, but if you just had kind of like a top tip to making the most of this semester, what's something that you might recommend?
I don't mind jumping in to answer this
Sure.
question. My recommendation would be to connect. Just because we don't have that, face-to-face feel, and I think we have to put in that extra effort to really connect with others, but also connect for networking, connect for information, connect to help to make sure that you're on track to success. It's a lot going on in the world, and I'm pretty sure it's a lot going on in your personal world, and as we are offices of professional development, of academic success, it's so important that you connect with our offices for the resources and the services that we do offer to help you all during this semester and during these times.
Yeah, that's awesome. Absolutely. Does anyone else want to share kind of a top tip or anything?
I'm going to jump in here. I would say be proactive and get involved. Make sure to know all the resources that UCF has to offer and use the resources. It's quite a lot out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a perfect segue into learning a little bit more about some of these resources, because all of our offices, I think, are great resources. And so we've got some questions about how to engage with those. So let's see. The first one is, and this I think would be for Jason, what kind of tutoring resources are available downtown and how would a student access those?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for the downtown campus, we do have tutoring through 3 different ways. And so the first one would be virtual tutoring through SARC. And so the Student Academic Resource Center through UCF does a lot of different things to assist you as you're working your way through a lot of those lower level courses that may be more difficult, your maths, your science. And then also with downtown, we have in-person services also through SARC. And that will include upper level courses. And so this is the first time that we're actually having in-person services downtown for upper division legal studies class that's available. Those are available, 2 of them on Wednesdays and then 1 of them on Thursday. And then moving forward, as students are taking their general education classes downtown, perhaps through Valencia, their learning support department also has a lot of different resources. Right now, they're all virtual, but they will be returning to campus once things return to somewhat normal. And so we look forward to being able to serve you in that space as well. I can drop a couple links into the chat to those different resources.
Yeah, that would be great. As we're talking about some different things, anyone please feel free to drop things into the chat, and I can sort of collect those and make sure there's a list at the end that we're happy to share. So this next question, I think, Theda, would be for you, and it's, I live in Union West. If I want to connect with someone in student accessibility services in person, what is the best way to do that?
Sure. Thanks, Courtney. Yeah, so Student Accessibility Services is operating on campus on Tuesdays and on Thursdays. So 8 to 5, if you're on campus, you can come by the office. There are other ways to connect to our office. If you want to talk to somebody in person, we have our virtual front desk that's operating Monday through Friday from 11 to 2. And you can look on our website. I can put the web address on there.
Awesome.
Also signs at the front desk and on the office door. So it has a QR code, so you can scan that. You go into a Zoom room. If there's a student waiting ahead of you, you'll be put into a waiting room, but there will be somebody live there that can answer any questions you may have. And then you can also call the office. Some of us are working remotely, and so they can either take a message and have someone call you back. Some of us are in the office, so if somebody is available, they can transfer you to somebody available, and we can talk with you. And then, of course, we have the email and website as well. So we're trying to cover all the bases. So get in touch with us. It shouldn't be hard at all.
Awesome. Thank you. So Chinyan and Tiana, this is kind of a big question, but maybe you can tackle, you know, when a student's thinking about getting internship credit, maybe it's required for their program, where should they start? So, you know, there's a lot of differences between the different types of internship credits that might be required depending on their major. Where do you recommend getting started, kind of to understand those requirements, and then reaching out to you all? How would that process look?
Oh, you got to unmute Chinyan. I don't want to overstep.
I was typing, so I didn't want to kind of disrupt anybody. Do you want to jump in first?
Yeah, sure. So for me, and within the process in the office, I always tell students, start with your academic advisors, because a lot of times it depends on the program. So students can actually receive credit through their, and this is internship credit, through their department, or they can come to Experiential Learning. So we're like the centralized hub, and we're liaised to these different colleges and departments, and we all work together to make sure that you're taking on experiences, and you may receive credit or may not. It depends on the type of experience and your academic program. Based on your program. So I always say start with your academic advisors and then come and see us, you know, and we do have a process which is handshake. So let's say a student solidified an internship opportunity. Their first step will be to go into handshake and fill out an experience form. And within that experience form, you'll actually include the academic advisor, and we ask, have you met with your academic advisor first, as well as that employer's information, which will be the site supervisor who they'll be reporting to. So we have to go through and get approval from your academic advisor as well as the employer. So that's why I always tell students, start with your academic department, speak with the advisors, and then start your process. But we help students with many other things. We actually help them find the internships. We do internship advising, and we put on different workshops and networking opportunities with students.
Right. I will add a couple more points. One is that our experiential learning academic credit, internship credit will count towards students' general electives. So in general, to have internship count for major, students usually will have to go through the departments, and this is where we encourage a student to go through the department, talk to their academic advisor first, and to see whether they qualify for their department's internship courses, because in general, they tend to be scheduled in the senior year, maybe the first semester or second semester, or maybe the graduating semester. So talk to the department and see if, you know, when they can actually do the department internship. However, on the other hand, we encourage a student to start getting internship experiences early, as soon as probably even starting from sophomore year. after they have some academic training, and they can get any experience, to gain soft skills, transferable skill. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly in their major related area, but to get any professional experience is always helpful as soon as they can. In that case, usually they can get internship credit that will count towards their general electives. So this is why our office here, we help students find internships, and we want students to kind of start early as soon as possible.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I can piggyback on that too. There's a few questions about career services and getting involved there. So career services, our goal is to help students think about what comes after graduation. And for some students, maybe that's graduate school and preparing for that process. For some students, it's the job search. But that can start early. Just like you said, Chinyan, we want students to be engaging with us in career services as soon as possible, because we can start to provide a lot of tools and resources as early as a student's first semester on campus, in terms of thinking about, all right, well, what kinds of things do I need to add to my resume? How do I get experience that will be helpful going forward? What kind of skills are employers going to be looking for? And I know that relates to both internships and, career opportunities after graduation. So helping to think about, what kind of holes might be on my resume now, and how do I start to fill in those holes by getting different types of experience, whether that's an internship, whether it's volunteering in the community, joining student organizations. All of those types of things build great skills that employers are looking for. And Tiana, you mentioned Handshake. We in Career Services use the Handshake platform as well. So something that students can do to get started with either of our offices is to make sure that you're logged into your Handshake profile, and that you are completing and updating that profile as you go and as you add skills and experience. Because that way, if you chose to make that profile public, employers would be able to see that information. It's like having a version of your resume in Handshake that employers can look at and get excited about you as a candidate. So Handshake is definitely, I would say, the best place to start, probably for both of our offices. That's how students make appointments with Career Services and Experiential Learning. It's how they can see our master event calendar, do research on employers, all that good stuff. So that's definitely, I think, something that they could do to get in touch with any of us. Let's see, Jason, this one's for you. Can you talk about when the downtown campus is open and what resources are available at this time?
Sure, that's a good question. So the student services are on the second floor within Student Success. Our office is open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and that's our front desk. And so our front desk can either connect you directly with the services that are in person on a rotating basis throughout the week. And at the same time, they can also connect you virtually. And so if you don't know how to connect, you may not know that all of our services are available. We're open for business. And so we can connect you easily to any of the different resources and services that are available on the downtown campus, whether we're virtual or not. In addition to that, we have our First Stop. First Stop is open Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And what that is it's a variety of different resources and services, including student coaching, financial aid, the registrar's office, accounts payable. And so all those different services are available, again, in person Monday through Thursday, and then they're completely virtual on Friday. And then, like I said, learning support, we're open Wednesday and Thursday for tutoring. Campus as a whole is primarily open during those times. We have classes as early as 8 a.m. and as late as I think the last one is at 9 p.m. And so our buildings are typically open around those times as well. And then we also have card services, parking services, all open in CMB as well. And so again, we have a lot of resources that are open. And again, whether they're in person or virtual, we can make sure that you're getting the assistance that you need in order to be supported this semester.
That's awesome. Thank you. So it sounds like pretty much, everything a student would need, they wouldn't necessarily need to seek those out at main campus or somewhere else, because there's opportunities to get involved with those downtown.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we've said from the beginning. When we opened last fall downtown, we said that we're not a satellite campus. We're not a regional campus. We are a fully operational campus. Students can go from their AA all the way through PhD on the campus academically. and they can get all the services and resources that they need in order to help them succeed throughout that time as well. It's really unique. We have international advisor for AA Valencia students in an office that's right next to a graduate admissions advisor for UCF. And so again, you can go that entire span right there on the same floor, right next to one another. And so it's a really cool opportunity. We have all those resources that you need downtown.
That's awesome. Thank you. So this is kind of a fun one. So anyone feel free to jump in, but we've been talking about space on campus. What are some of your favorite spaces on the downtown campus, whether it's for like finding a quiet space to study or just something that you think is particularly cool? Does anyone have anything to share there?
I'll unmute. If we take a look at Jason's background, I would say that's one of my favorite spaces. It's just a beautiful room, and I love natural light. So just because we have all of the glasses and the lights just shining, and again, I've done workshops in that space. So I just think it's an awesome space that we can really use. And I was late one night studying. I'm in school, and it was like 6 o'clock, and I just heard music, and it was a DJ out there. So it was a lot of students. It was jam-packed, and they was having so much fun. So I like that the space is it's flexible, if that's for lack of a better term. But it's a lot that we can use with the different spaces. So I really love that space. And again, it's Jason's background. It's on the 2nd floor, and that's the student success and engagement office space.
Yeah, and of course I would echo that as well. And this is a question we're actually getting a lot this semester, because currently our individual study spaces are locked. They're not available right now at this point in time. Again, we want to make sure that any spaces that we do open up, we have the facility staff to clean those on a regular basis to keep them as safe as possible. And so those spaces right now are not, but we do have a lot of spaces that still are. This space that Tiana's mentioned behind me is available. We are open again. That floor is open from, I think, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so you're welcome to come up here. It's a great quiet space to hang out and to study. And then also in the DPAC building, there's a lot of really cool spaces. Some of those spaces have whiteboards as well, which I know is a big perk of those individual study spaces. And so there are more common areas that are open that you can go to in lieu of those individual study spaces until they reopen.
I was going to just jump in really quick because just what Tiana and Jason were saying, I like the natural light. So any place with a window. Our office happens to be on the other side of the building, so we don't get that natural light. So I do like the natural light. And one of my favorite spots is in DPAC on that bridge. Just able to sit right there by the window. Sometimes I'll go there for lunch.
Yeah, and there's some really cool artwork throughout campus, but especially over in DPAC, there's some really cool like murals. So it could be fun just to like walk around and sort of explore all the buildings, especially while it's so quiet. It's probably a good time to take advantage of that, just sort of browsing, but that's awesome. So the next question is for you, Theta. It says, what accommodation is there if I can't wear a mask due to my disability?
Yeah, that's a good question. A question that's been coming to our office quite a bit because of COVID. So first off, the first thing we're going to have to keep in mind is that UCF does have a policy that all students on campus must wear a mask. So regardless of disability, there is no accommodation for a student to not have a mask on. What if you do experience some health difficulties and it is hard for you to use a mask, contact our office, and what we're going to look into is opportunities to explore whether remote classes are an option for you. We can talk to the professor, see if we can get you remote so that you will not have to be in the actual physical classroom if it's difficult for you to wear a mask. But definitely contact our office as soon as possible. Like I said, this is a concern with many students, and we have been working with professors, and professors have been flexible, they're understanding. So I know a lot of people feel like sometimes they feel like a burden or an inconvenience to ask for something, but I would say there's no wrong questions, just ask, just come, we will do what we can and work this out. I think a lot of people, especially in this COVID environment, understand that there is going to be a variety of different scenarios for different students and are willing to work with you.
Sure, that's great. And sort of along those lines, I have another question about accommodations. I was approved for accommodations before COVID. Do these still apply to my classes now that I am all online?
Yes, that's another question that we get a lot. Yes, they do. The difference is now that you're online, you may not even need your accommodation. So, for example, we have students who have been approved for note-taking technology because they need assistance with taking notes. Now that it's online, everything is maybe recorded, so you may not need that note-taking technology to use that. So yes, your accommodations are still in place. Every accommodation is still approved and valid. Just how you use the accommodation might look a little different. So if you have any questions, or if the professor has any questions, you can have them contact SAS, or if you have any questions, you can contact us as well.
Awesome, that's great. Thank you. A question for our experiential learning folks. Can you talk about, if a student is wanting an internship, Chinyan, you mentioned it's never too early to get started. That's great. What types of employers, though, are available for students to apply for internships with? Is it, a limited amount? Is there something that they're choosing from, or kind of is the sky the limit with employers and internships?
Tian, you're on mute.
I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm not sure the sky is the limit. I think there's always a limit. But in general, I work quite a bit with School of Public Administration and nonprofit, and a lot of the employers that I work with, they are actually nonprofit. And with nonprofit, there are a lot of opportunities out there for volunteering or internship, pay or unpaid. Of course, with nonprofit, usually pay positions are a little bit more challenging for them to offer, but they offer great opportunities. Their focus, quite often their focus is really mainly on student learning. They want students to learn what they want to, what they need in order to develop the professional skills. And as for health service administration, they can work in a hospitals or doctor's office. The only thing I want to mention is that if students who needs to get internship credit to count for their major for health service administration, then they will need to be sure that the employer is affiliated with the department. Because they do have to sign the affiliation agreement. That takes kind of time to process to put them on the affiliation partnership, because students usually, in order for them to do that program, they are in a senior year already. So if students, they get experience, they find internship early on to try to find, for example, just to get experience during maybe their late sophomore year or junior year in a doctor's office and so on. They can go through our office, but we don't have that kind of affiliation agreement with employers, just a generic agreement with the employer. So that's a little bit easier. So, but then again, it depends on what the requirements are from the employer. Sometimes we can help, sometimes we cannot. But once the student find an internship, they can kind of reach out to us and we will take it from there.
Cool.
And to add on to what Chinyan is saying, so with me having a career services background, I'm like, the sky's the limit. What are you passionate about? What is it you really want to do? Then we can start targeting some companies, because a lot of students don't know that these employers, they look for all majors and they look for certain skill sets, so it may not be particularly the type of degree that you're pursuing, but it could be your interest area, your passion, and the background that you do have and what you're trying to get your foot in the door into. So I tell the students, when we're thinking about companies, let's do some research on these companies. Let's look at the mission and the vision of the company. Is it matching you, and let's look at some of the opportunities that the company may have, so what's the career end goal, where you're really trying to go? And then we can really focus on those type of companies that will kind of meet your needs, and that's a fit. because I think about that fit. I think about the environment to person fit, and it's really, the internships really help with students figuring that out when they place themselves in the different environments. So I advise them to be open and to be flexible, because you really don't know what it is that you like until you experience it. So we do have something called a job shadow program. So this is something that a student can do prior to taking on a full internship. They can actually shadow, or they can do like an informational interview with that employer, where they're sitting down with an employer and asking them different questions. So what is a typical day like, within your company? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the backgrounds and skill sets that you look for in your hires? So it's different approaches that the students may want to take, but it is a limit, but I also want them to think and be, and understand that it can be limitless if your strategy is right.
Right. And I guess I do have to clarify, yes, in terms of, how you look at it as far as getting experience, yes, be flexible, and yes, sky is the limit. But on the other side, I was thinking about program restrictions.
Sure.
For example, sometimes, students want to get an internship to count for majors. Sometimes the department or the program have specific restriction on the position description, what the student can do in order to count for credit. So because of those restrictions, so that's why I thought, okay, sky may not be the limit.
No, that was right. That was perfect, Chin Yen.
And I think that's practical.
A good point. Yeah, so with the program, yeah, and I'm all in, go out and fly and be free, So no, absolutely. You have to consider both. What are your program requirements and restrictions? And also, how does that tie into what it is that you have an interest in and that you want to do? You have to cover both bases. Yeah.
Right. I do want to give an example. So for example, for clinical psychology, they started the programs from bachelor degree, from undergraduate program. And then in order for a student really to get the clinical, meaning having physical contact with patients, with the supervision, they would have to be really in a graduate program. So this kind of restriction really limits students, search for experience. But usually I advise the undergraduate students in this program to be flexible, just like Tiana say. Instead of say, okay, I want to get a clinical practicum position, but there's no employer out there they're going to offer that kind of opportunity, because they don't have a degree, they don't have license. So it's really difficult, because of liability issues. So it's difficult for employer to offer that kind of experience. But I tell the students, yes, they can always work in the, office doing administrative, learn the business side process. So, that's beneficial. So what I'm trying to say is that because of the program restriction, that kind of limits the internship search. But as far as gaining experience, if you just want to find something that helps you to develop important professional skills, just like Tiana says, yes, the sky is the limit.
Awesome. And I think back to when you said, really talk to your academic advisor first. It makes a lot of sense. If you're trying to get an internship for credit, you need to make sure, obviously, that you're meeting all of your program's restrictions. And so I think that combo of your answers still makes sense. You can get experience, again, from my career services perspective. You can get experience, good experience anywhere. Employers are really looking for skills like leadership and communication, problem solving, critical thinking, and those skills are not limited to just one industry or one field. So it's, in that sense, I think it's exciting for students that they can really follow things that they're really interested in and passionate about to get some of those skills no matter what. Another question about career services was, do we do resume reviews? And I know that is a popular service for students. Again, no matter, where the student is in their college experience, first day, getting ready to graduate, anywhere in between, we are happy to do resume critiques. And right now, kind of in this virtual environment, we're doing all of our resume and cover letter and LinkedIn profile critiques virtually. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat, and this link is where a student would go to submit any of those materials, resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile, and that will be reviewed by someone on our team, and you'll get feedback and suggestions on those professional documents. And so I think that is, just something to keep in mind, because it's it's pretty easy, you know, go in, even if you feel like, gosh, I'm starting with a really rough copy of my resume. That is totally fine. We are here to help you build on that and figure out what are you starting with, what is working well, and what could you improve upon. And we know that it's a very unique style of writing, just the same way that interviewing is a very unique style of talking about yourself, but we're here to help you practice those skills and build confidence in those things. So don't hesitate to reach out to us for those types of services.
And Courtney, to add on, Experiential Learning, we help students with that as well. So we'll sit down with you one-on-one and we'll go over your resume to make sure you're targeting it for your internship experiences as well. So definitely come and see us. And the way you'll schedule that, again, will be through Handshake, and you can just actually select a resume review type of appointment. So we definitely encourage students to take that step, because that's your marketing tool. You know, that's this is you are your brand, you know, and a lot of students I see struggle with that. And how do I make it, you know, how should it look and how should I target it? Or, you know, what are employers really looking for? And we help you with that. And we also put on different events where you'll have an opportunity for an employer to actually review your resume. So we tell students that get those industry professionals, they're the ones doing the hiring, you know, so let them give you that feedback and look at your resume. So you can definitely check those events out in Handshake, and see who's here and what events are going on and how can you really make yourself a little bit more marketable, especially with the resume and the cover letter.
Absolutely. Thank you. Jason, this is kind of in a different direction with academic advising. How would a student make an appointment to see their academic advisor? So we talked about making an appointment with career services and experiential learning through Handshake. Could you talk about making an appointment with an academic advisor?
Yeah, absolutely. So during a normal semester, academic advisors are all located for Nicholson and CCIE on the second floor of Union West, just down the hall from Courtney and I. And so you can come up to our front desk and you can make an appointment directly with our staff there. Right now, if you are a Nicholson student, what you're going to do is you're going to reach out to Nicholson directly. They're running all of their appointments through the main campus. And so you'll just reach out to that one touch point and you'll be able to make an appointment with your advisor. All of their advising appointments right now are virtual. For CCIE, you can do either or. And so right now you can come to the front desk within Union West on the second floor if you're located downtown, or if you're on main campus, you can walk into that office and make an appointment there or contact them via email or phone. And then in addition to that, if again, you're a Valencia student and you need general education advising, that's located in First Stop as well, on the first floor of the Union West building. And if you're a culinary or hospitality student, then your advisors are upstairs in the Union West building.
Awesome, thank you. Theta, I think we have one more question for you. If a student is walking by and they notice that the door says that the testing center is closed, but they have accommodations, how would a student take their tests?
This is a little confusing because yes, technically the testing center is closed for the semester. If you have been approved for accommodations, the question is, how is the rest of your class taking their exam? So if the exam is online, then you would also take the exam online and the professor can provide the extra time if that's your accommodation. If the class is taking the test on campus, it's a face-to-face or a hybrid class, and if the class is physically taking the exam on campus, then we can accommodate you with extra time or whatever accommodations you have been approved for. You would go through the same process that you normally would. You would log into our website and you would schedule to take your test with us, and we will facilitate. So we will open it for you. But again, you do have to look at how your class is taking the exam.
Okay, that's good to know. So kind of a last question on my end for everyone is, you know, we've talked a little bit about connecting and plugging in and, you know, sharing all of these resources that you have available, spaces that are still open. It's obvious that there's still a ton going on downtown across campus. One thing that I thought might be interesting to share is kind of through all of this, something I personally found to be helpful as an undergraduate student is finding kind of somebody to guide me through this, like a mentor of some sort. And that might just be an older student, it might be a professional, but I'd love for anyone else to share too, how can we find these people to help us navigate all of this, especially in a semester that probably feels a little bit more chaotic than your average semester maybe. How do we find mentors? How do we find kind of support for all of these things that we want to do?
Go ahead, Tiana.
Okay. I was waiting. I would say the first step is just to first meet with advisors, meet with the counselors, meet with us, right? We can be a mentor, but I do know the importance of the peer-to-peer mentor. So again, I think Chinyan was the person who mentioned, or someone mentioned getting involved. You know, when you get involved, you connect with people who are like-minded. And again, you have an opportunity again to get those peer mentors, and it may be upperclassmen, it may be students who are on the same level as you that can kind of guide you, who may be still experiencing the things that you're experiencing, so they can give you some feedback and they can really help you through the process. But there's so many resources and services on campuses that offer you opportunities to get a mentor. There are mentorship programs. I know Mass, they have a lot. So they have the Brother to Brother program. They have the Sister Circle, the CAPS office, they do as well. They have different meetings where students can come together. So there are opportunities and services on that are on campus, but think about what your needs are, and then you can target these services and see what mentorship opportunities are available within these services as well. But definitely get involved, join student organizations. They will offer you an opportunity for that as well. But the first step is connecting with us, especially if you don't know where to start and how to start. I would say the first step would be to schedule an appointment with us, and we'll help navigate, and we'll also help you do the research to find out who you need to connect with.
Right. I want to echo what Tiana said earlier at the beginning. She said, you know, make connections. And a lot of times students, they don't realize doing internship, there are, you know, several benefits. One, you know, of course, student always, the first thing come to mind is that, yes, they can get experience. But the truth is actually another point is really important is networking. And helping students, you know, once they get out there, even if they are not doing an internship for credit, just by volunteering, they get involved with other volunteers or other interns, and then get to know professionals. Then they can find, you know, sometimes they actually find mentors, you know, who are in a professional environment. They like the student, and they start, you know, kind of nurturing the student. So yes, go out there, get yourself out there, make connections, and through the experience, through internships, or even through student organizations and so on, get in touch with people, and you will get to know people. But also in the meantime, that people get to know you. So I know a lot of time we say, you know, this stage finding a job is not about sometimes not about experience, but about who you know. But also very important is that who know you.
Sure,
Yeah.
I like that.
And something I forgot, talk to your professors.
Yes.
I wouldn't be where I am today had I not had a conversation with my professor within my master's program. I wish I would have did this a little earlier on in undergrad. However, when I was in my master's program, I was having a hard time moving up in my career at Full Sail University at the time. But I went to my professor, who was the director of career services at that time, or he still is for the career development team. But either way, I sat down with him and I said, could you look at my resume? And then he just told me about the importance of gaining a mentor and having the mentorship relationships. And I just looked at him and said, would you please be my mentor? And he said, absolutely. And from then on, I've excelled so much in my career, and I've grown so much from that relationship. So definitely start with your professors. You know, they work in the industry, they have that background in the industry, and they have connections for you. And they're there to help guide you as well. You know, so you do have the academic piece, but you also have the professional development piece where you can connect with them. Sorry, Jason.
Right. I want to pick it. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, Tiana, that's exactly what I was gonna say. So you probably said a lot better than I could have. So, but I had very similar experiences in undergrad, you know, with connecting with faculty, going to office hours. You know, they're definitely one of your largest resources. And like you said, so many of them have been there. They weren't always faculty. You know, at one point they may have been working in your specific field, and so connect with them. They have the experience, they have the connections. you know, and so take advantage of that. And I think what you'll find is the large majority of faculty and staff on campus will be very willing and very happy and honored that you're asking them to be your mentor. And so I know that can be a little bit of a scared process of, you know, of reaching out to somebody who you look up to in that way. And but, you know, again, I think that they would be honored to fill that role for you.
Yeah.
Right. I think one of the challenges, I remember in one of our workshops, one of the discussion was that students are having a hard time getting recommendation from the professors. And one of the reasons was because they don't know them. You know, so we encourage a student really try to keep regular communication with their faculty, instructors, and to get to know them and let them get to know you. So that, you know, one day if you want to apply to graduate school or some special programs that needs a letter of recommendation, then you can get it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Theta, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to mention, just because our office does work with students with disabilities, sometimes it is a little difficult for a student to connect with someone that kind of understands what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
So we do have a peer ambassador program through SAS. So if a student, first year, second year, doesn't matter, if you are interested in working with someone that is your peer that has connected with our office and kind of has that experience of working with the accommodations, trying to manage a disability and different aspects of life, then definitely connect with our office. You can email me or you can go to our website and you can request to connect with a peer ambassador. Sometimes talking to somebody that has the same experiences and challenges that you may encounter is a lot easier than someone who wouldn't understand that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, those are all of the questions that we have prepared. So I want to open it up for the last few minutes. If there are any questions that you all want to ask, or, you know, to our panelists, if there are things we didn't touch on that you feel would be really important for students to know, anyone's welcome to type in the chat as well, either to everyone or to me privately, and I'm happy to ask those questions for the group. And so we've got, you know, a few minutes so we can continue to answer some questions and or provide kind of any last words of wisdom.
I think one of the things that, before I mentioned that we have everything on the downtown campus, you know, that you need in order to be successful. But I want to make sure I also stress that that doesn't take away from the experience that you'll get on main campus as well. And I think that's the benefit of being a downtown campus, is you can get the best of both worlds. And so we'll never have Spirit Splash, you know, on the downtown campus. We'll never have a football game on the downtown campus. And so we encourage you to participate in those opportunities as well, and have that full college experience, what may be a more traditional experience on the main campus, and then your experience on the downtown campus and the connections you can make across a metropolitan area, which we know will benefit you in the end. And so we make that easy by providing an express shuttle to campus on a regular basis throughout the day. I think it runs 14 or 15 times a day back and forth. And then on game days, we also have run it in the past on Saturdays. So again, we encourage you to take advantage of those opportunities that will present themselves on both campuses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. And something that I would say is, you know, this sounds silly maybe, but just to check emails. So, you know, I think we're bombarded with information all of the time, and it's easy to just, you know, it's overwhelming. I completely acknowledge that it can be overwhelming, the amount of messages we're getting from different offices and things who want our attention and who want us to attend events. And something that I found to be helpful is, you know, maybe set aside 1 or 2 times each week to sit down and go through your inbox, because I think something that helped me to be successful in school, and I didn't learn this immediately, but when I started to read through all the emails I was getting, I realized, you know, there are so many opportunities that I can take advantage of that I may not be seeing unless I'm taking the time to read newsletters and to read emails from different offices. And sometimes that's where you're going to find, you know, internship opportunities, and you're going to find mentorship opportunities and volunteering opportunities, and maybe a student organization that you'd never heard about. But it does take some responsibility on our part, and even as faculty and staff, to read our emails and to see what's happening, what is going on, you know, on campus and around campus and in the community that I can get engaged with, to kind of get the most out of this college experience outside of the classroom. So, you know, that's just some advice I would share, is to really, you know, read your emails. As simple as that sounds, carve out some time to think about, you know, what all is going on and what opportunities you have. So anybody have anything?
I want to add on to that. Definitely read your emails, because we actually send out bi-weekly emails to students highlighting hot internships that's really geared towards your major, and different events that may be targeting your area that you have an interest in as well. So definitely pay attention to your emails. And I'm going to put a shameless plug in there for our next event that we're going to do in collaboration with Career Services with Courtney. It's going to be Chinyen and myself and Courtney. We have another event that's going to be targeting just for downtown students, where we're going to sit down and really go over a plan with you. And I say sit down, but virtually. Virtually sit down.
You can stand up if you want.
Yes, you can. So we can really come up with a plan. You know, what's your plan of getting experience to make sure you're going to be marketable once you graduate? Because I get a lot of students that they come into the senior year and they're like, you know, I don't know what it is that I want to do. And it's because they really haven't taken the time out to really explore. A lot of times we focus on just our academics, making sure we have a great GPA, but employers really want to see students who are well-rounded. So they want to know, what have you done over the last 4 years, or 5, depending, you know, on how long it may take us, but what have you done? So we really want to make sure you have a plan. So that's going to be October the 7th from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. The link will be in Handshake. It's already, the event is already posted in Handshake, so you can go ahead and RSVP, but definitely attend that one. And again, it's going to be more personalized towards you and helping you develop some type of plan.
Yeah.
Right. I also want to add a couple more things that we kind of missed, you know, at the beginning during the introduction. Our office, not in addition to just kind of helping students finding internship, we also handle, for example, job shadow program. And also we have internship fair coming up. And we, so for example, I'm the campus liaison for the Washington Center internship programs. So student, for example, for health service administration and HIM students, if you are interested in policy and regulations, that's a great program to kind of to participate. And we also help manage the international internships in our office. Tiana, do I miss anything in addition to that? Oh, service learning programs. So service learning programs are, well, basically is a project-based experiential program. Student requires to commit only 15 hours a week. They just need to sign up with a course that has service learning component in the course. So the job shadow internship fair, and also we have certain events, meeting with employers and everything we post on Handshake, and student can apply directly and view the information and apply directly.
Absolutely.
Deanna?
Yeah. And the internship fair is going to be on September the 22nd. So you can go in Handshake. You already have the listing of employers who will be attending that. And again, it's a virtual world that we're in. So definitely practice with us so we can show you how to really network and navigate this virtual platform that we're in right now. And that's what I want to tell students. We're really accommodating the times that we're in right now. So all of the majority of our events, I think all of them actually, are virtual, so again, how do you shine in a virtual world? Some of us it's easy for us to go up to someone and just talk, but how do you do that and talk in a virtual world? So we're going to have a workshop on how to navigate virtual internship fairs. And we do have an opportunity for you to meet with us one-on-one so we can help prepare you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, all of our names are up on the screen. And so feel free to reach out to us individually. We're happy to make referrals too. So don't worry about like, what if I reach out to the wrong person? You could reach out to any of us and we're happy to connect you with the people who have the answers to your questions, even if that is none of us on this call. We'd be more than happy to make those referrals and to connect you via email to the folks who might have the answers you're looking for. So again, please don't hesitate to follow up with us, reach out. We are happy to answer whatever types of questions you might have. We know it's sort of strange times this semester and we're all in it together. I think, we all think it's a little bit strange too. So, you might have that feeling of like, am I the only one who thinks this is odd? But nope, we all feel like it's a little bit weird together. So I am going to stop sharing and we will close out today, but thank you for all of our wonderful panelists who agreed to be here and answer questions. It was very informative. I continue to learn new things about your offices. So I appreciate that. And hopefully we will all see you virtually this semester, but everyone have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.